Hey everyone, this is probably one of the silliest things I've ever done, but it's been on my heart for a little bit to just really share my story with everyone again. Um, I've moved and I've met a lot of great people, and they've helped me through some really hard times, so I figure it would only be fair that they knew most of my story anyway. And with just so much going on right now and just so much doubt and uncertainty and just being afraid and not knowing what's going to happen day to day, I thought it would just be nice to put something positive out for people to be able to listen to, and just to know that we have a future, that we have a purpose, and what's in front of you is just a little obstacle, and it just adds to your story. My story is almost like a Lifetime movie, and I know for us females, we love those Lifetime movies and those true stories, and usually there's a victory at the end with a lot of heartache in between, and that's definitely my story. But through all of it, just hold on and be patient, because there's something bright at the end of it. I grew up in a very small town. I love my home, Logan, West Virginia, and we probably fit the normal of what you think about when you think about Logan. Um, we were a family of 4, and I have a little sister, and we struggled. It wasn't 5-course meals every day or 4-course meals. We struggled even just for the basics of life, like I imagine most of us are doing right now. We didn't know what we were going to have for breakfast or dinner. It was a challenge, but I wouldn't trade most of those memories for anything, because I know I am who I am because of that. Now, my mom was this amazing woman, and she taught me very young how to just be strong and believe in myself. And I know I'm very thankful for that, because if not, I wouldn't have been able to get through just the future of what was ahead of me. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I guess because I'm just really going to open my heart up and just lay everything out for everybody to see. And so it's kind of hard. Our life, like I said, was probably what you would expect from somebody in West Virginia. We struggled, but we loved each other and we had a great time. But of course, there's a dark side, and our dark side happened pretty much every night. My stepfather was an alcoholic, and he was addicted to drugs, and those things, separated, combined, or anything, just made him angry. My mom couldn't do the right thing no matter what she done, and every night he would beat my mom. And it wasn't a little hit or a little smack, it was severe. There's usually blood and broken bones, and I remember, just sitting, laying in bed and waiting, because I knew it was going to happen, and I wanted to be there for my sister and just comfort her and try to distract her and things, because she's 4 years younger than me, so of course I had to be her protector, and I think I done pretty good at that, pretty well, but it was a nightly thing, and as the years went by, the drug use just got so much worse, and he just didn't care anymore. He just let himself go, and it was hard to go through and live your life, because you're sitting there wondering, what did I do, God? What what did I do to deserve this life? This is hard. This isn't normal. And I knew it wasn't normal because people would, people at school would be having sleepovers and things, and we couldn't do that. We couldn't have sleepovers. And I know it's a minor thing on the scale, but it was just me even knowing at a young age that something wasn't right, that this wasn't normal. And I thought it was okay though, because the next day my mom was all smiles and she was happy and she was holding her head high. So I was like, oh, okay, so this ain't so bad after all. It's going to be okay. And it was a repeat daily of that. And like I said, things just kept getting worse. They didn't get better. They didn't get easier. We had to move around a lot because we didn't have money to pay our rent. We never had phone, cable, but Mom always managed to keep water on for us and electricity. But the sacrifices she made just to do that, like, just breaks my heart now, being an adult and just knowing we're trying to have to balance bills and decide what can be paid and what can let go. And on this day we can eat this and hopefully there'll be leftovers, so that'll save me $10 there on food and things. So the struggle, it was real. Now my life completely changed one night, and we went to my grandma's quite often, and we were lucky enough one time that, well, not one time, it was a one-time move, I guess, but we moved and we were literally one house in between her, and that's where a lot of my greatest childhood memories were made. And one of the things that turned my entire life around and just gave me strength to be able to conquer things that were happening on a daily basis. And it was March 31st, 1998. And my grandma was dead set. Every church service, she was there. And she was excited to go. She'd pull out her fancy suit dresses and, looked like $1 million and was just pumped up and super excited. And she had invited me a couple times. And, being a kid, and being, in the area that we were, we always had people to play with and things to do. So, it was kind of easy to turn it down. And she kept asking, and one night I told her, I was like, the next time I'll go. And of course, she remembered, so she invites me, and it's March 31st, 1998. I go to his church, and it was Orville Holiness. And I've been to church my whole life, but I'd never been to a church like that. And I'll admit, I was terrified. These people knew how to worship and praise God, and to just fully be in that moment with God and the Holy Spirit and things. And I'd never seen nothing like that before, so I was terrified. I was sitting in the back of the church, and I honest to goodness thought I was going to puke. But you know what? God knew what he was doing. And even though I was terrified, I was amazed that these people were on such an intimate level with God. And I started feeling that tug at my heart. And I'm a very shy person. I'm very backwards, to the point that I wouldn't even get up in the classroom to sharpen my pencil. I would carry extra pencils and things just to avoid that. And it was just common practice. Everybody got up and sharpened their pencil. It wasn't no big deal. But to me, the anxiety and the thought of having to do that and people see me would give me a heart attack. But in this instance, I didn't care to pretty much run to that altar in that little church. And with my mama praying with me, I accepted God into my life. And I was so excited. And I was so on fire. And I remember getting home that night and just jumping out of, my grandparents' vehicles and running home and, telling everybody, I'm a Christian, I got saved, and, just really loving being in that moment. Now, church wasn't something that was new to me. Of course, typical West Virginia, we were very religious. My grandmother was a preacher. Our family, had a lot of musicians and things, so, like, church was not something that was new to me. Even reading my Bible wasn't something that was new to me. Learning to read was one of the greatest gifts that I have always embraced and still do. And when I turned 5 years old, it became my goal every summer to read that Bible from front to back. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was able to recognize, Noah's Ark and all those things, but a lot of it I didn't understand. But I wanted just to be in that moment with God. I've always craved knowing, the Bible and just all of that. And I remember even at a very young age, even though I didn't understand, I found comfort because I was able to understand that you're not alone, that God's with you. And I needed that. I needed that in a world where I felt so isolated because of what was going on at home. So it made me feel not as abnormal. And so, of course, this just opened up that fire for me to start reading my Bible and studying and stuff hardcore again. And my Bible was my favorite accessory. I carried it to church, of course. But I carried it to school, grocery shopping. I mean, everywhere I was, it was literally with me. And any free second, I made sure to grab that Bible and to study it and just devour it and remember it and pray and just, hope, been guided by God through His Word. And I was doing everything that I could possibly imagine to be the perfect little Christian. And of course, there was, like I said, things that I didn't fully understand and things like that, but my heart was definitely in the right place. I stood strong on His Word, and I was, 100% in it. But it doesn't mean that your faith doesn't get shaken, and that's what had happened to me. God continued to move in my life, and He seemed to be answering prayers I had been praying since before I even knew I was able to pray. Like, since I guarantee you I was probably a little tiny toddler. My stepdad left, and Mom divorced him. The divorce was final that year of August of '98, and things were just falling into place, it seemed like, finally. I didn't get up questioning God as to why I had to go through the things I was going through. Why I had to sit and watch my mom be beat every day when she didn't do anything wrong. She was this great, amazing person. I had all these questions, and they weren't there. We were happy finally. For the first time I could remember, we were happy. And my mom met this great guy, and his name was Sammy. And me and him, we were both nerds and all this, so me and him had this just amazing connection. And he could sing and play guitar, and it was just like, he was everything I could have prayed for my mom to have. And he made her happy, and he treated her like a queen. So, it's everything I could possibly ask for ever. And he got me outside sitting on the porch one evening, and he came out and he was like, I have something to ask you. And I didn't think much into it, I figured he's wanting me to do a science project or something with him, because he knew I loved science. So he would do all these little projects with me and make the volcanoes and the Mentos and Coke and, just little cool things like that. So, like, I honestly didn't think nothing. I'm like, yeah, whatever, you can talk to me. I'll do whatever you need. And he was like, can I marry your mom? I'm like, all right. if you're going to do this, you have to do this the right way. Like, you have to ask her, and you have to get a ring. It doesn't have to be nothing expensive, nothing fancy, but we're doing this the right way. So me and him got together and got her a pretty nice ring, actually. He invested a little bit, and my mom loved music, and she loved older music, so me and him started practicing playing Time in the Bottle. Well, he practiced, and I listened and critiqued and things, and he would play and plays guitar and sing until we found it was mastered. And of course, if anybody knew my mom, she I'm sorry, I've been missing her and just, remembering. She loved her coffee. Like, it didn't matter if it was 200 degrees out, she was going to be carrying her coffee with her. And I told him, I said, so you have to make her a big mug of coffee and I'll get her out here. And when I say big mug, I mean literally big mug. She carried her coffee around in the hospital cups that they give you, the big ones with the lid and the straw. So he made her the coffee and had it out there sitting, and we were waiting, and it's like, I'm gonna go get her. So I go get her and come out, and he plays the song, and of course I'm giving her the coffee, because to me that's the most important thing of this proposal apparently. And giving her the coffee, and he asked her to marry him. And of course she's all thrilled, and she's all for this, and they get engaged, and we thought we were going to have a normal life finally. That things were just, falling into place for us, and things, and of course through all this I'm thanking God and praising God, and just studying the Bible even more, and starting to testify at church, and just really finding my place in in my faith, and being comfortable to step out and, like I said, to testify and things. So it's like, wow, this is finally all just working out, and everything's going to be okay. I wish things had worked out the way that I had planned. November 4th, 1998. I'm even pretty sure it was on a Tuesday. If it wasn't a Tuesday, it was probably a Wednesday. I knew I had school the next day, and I had a biology test, and I'd been studying, and I was ready to go, and I loved school, and it was my escape from home. So I loved school, and it was a nice way, made my mom proud and things like that. So I excelled at it, and I did not miss school. Like, I passed out one morning when I was trying to go to school. So when I found out that her and Sammy were going the next day to get married, I was kind of bummed, because I was going to have to miss school. And my mom was my best friend. She was my entire world, and after Bud left, I got into the habit of sleeping with her, and I think a lot of it was to protect her, if he decided to break in or whatever, but I don't know, I just always had to be with her. And on this night, and I'd kind of already aggravated her, and if anyone knew me and Mom, that was just kind of our thing. Like, I like to get on her nerves and things. It was all harmless, and she knew that and things, but I'd already aggravated her about having to miss school for this wedding that they decided last minute that they were going to go to. So comes time to go to sleep, and it was like, all right, Mom, I'm sleeping with you. And she's like, no, you're not. You're getting in your own bed. You've already drove me crazy. You're not sleeping with me, and all this. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm sleeping with you, and yada yada yada. But she was like, we made the basement your bedroom. You have that whole area to yourself. Go down there and sleep. So, I went on down, and I just could not sleep that night. So I read my Bible to the point that I wasn't even able to comprehend. So I grabbed the Headless Horseman and was reading it. And I just didn't feel right. Something just felt off that night. And I just could not sleep, and I was restless, and I don't know, I felt so uneasy, and I took it, it's just me missing school and going to miss a test and hoping I could retake it, not retake it, but make it up and things like that. So, I was just sitting there thinking, man, you're being silly. You need to relax and go to sleep. And then I heard footsteps upstairs. Because I slept in the basement, and it was pretty much a full basement down below the house. And I heard footsteps on what would be the porch. And I knew, my heart sunk. And yeah, if you've taken the time to guess, it was Bud. And I heard him banging on the door, and I still do not like going anywhere without shoes. It's just never, my feet are sensitive. So I'm looking for my shoes to try to go up there to see what's going on. And I hear my mom screaming, Bud, don't stop. And then I heard a gunshot. And I heard glass break. And so I knew he had a gun. But in those moments, it's weird, fear wasn't something I felt. I didn't feel fear, I just felt the need to get to my mom. That was my main focus, was to get to her. And as I'm coming in, she's my mom, and me and my sisters were babysitting my little cousin. And my mom's rushing out my sister with the baby to make sure that they were okay. And I don't see Sammy anywhere. But like I said, unfortunately, my main focus was on my mom. Sammy was this big dude. He is well over 6 foot, and he was stout. And maybe that's why I didn't think of him, because it's he could take care of himself. And I heard another gunshot, and I was begging my mom to get out. Please, just leave, get out. Come on, let's go. And Bud comes through, and he's as calm as could be. He didn't say anything. He goes to the front door. I was sitting there watching, and it seems like time stands completely still, because he goes to the front door, and his back's still to us, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, okay, he's leaving. This is good. My sister went to call 911 and all this, and he's leaving, so it's okay. Go on. And he slowly turns around, and he looks at my mom, and my mom's standing kind of diagonal to him, and she's in the kitchen doorway, and of course she's just looking at him, and it was literally like a slow motion moment where I could pretty much almost see the bullets come out of the gun as he pulls his trigger. And he shoots her 2 times in the chest. And then he turns and he looks at me. And I'm still not afraid. I'm just kind of frozen in this moment. Like, literally, like I couldn't move. I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't react. And he pulls the trigger. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, am I dead? Is this what being dead's like? And then he pulls the trigger again. And then I watch him leave. And I'm sitting there checking myself, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like, okay, I'm okay. And I go over to my mom, and your mom has this marvelous way of protecting you, because the only thing I noticed was she was bleeding on her bad leg. She'd fallen on the glass and her bad leg was cut open. She'd had open heart surgery, and where they take the vein from your leg, it hadn't healed properly, and she had to wear one of those medical socks all the time, so it got, known as her bad leg. And I remember leaning over and telling her, Mom, oh man, your bad leg's bleeding. I'll be right back. Because it occurred to me that Sammy came through. Like, where's Sammy? So I go look for Sammy. And he was in the bathroom. And the bathroom was literally covered in blood. And I knew that there was no hope for him. I knew he was gone. So I go back to be with my mom, and it's still not sunk in as to what is happening to her. And I pick her up and talk to her. She tries to talk to me back, and she's not able to, and she goes quiet, and I just lay her down because I think she's resting. So I lay her down and I go out on the porch to wait for the ambulance. And as a young Christian, I'd never prayed for myself. I prayed for everybody, my mom, like crazy, but I'd never prayed for myself. And on that night, I begged God not to take my mom. And I even, made sure to tell him, I've never asked for anything from you. Just please don't take my mommy from me. I need her. And the ambulance gets there, and, just for safety reasons and things like that, they kind of just moved me out the way. And, I believe my aunt came and got me. I'm not even sure, but I somehow end up at my grandma's, and my aunt does come up, and we go to the hospital. And I remember, walking down there and even telling my grandma that mom was okay. Things were okay. It was going to be okay. It's all right. So when I go to the hospital with my aunt, I'm just expecting to go back and see my mom. In this hospital, maybe at the hospital, a doctor, maybe some nurses, I'm not sure, but I definitely know a doctor greeted us, and told us, they'd done everything they could. It was just too bad she had a hole in her chest the size of a softball, and I'm just floored, because I just seen her, and her right leg was bleeding. That was it. So I'm kind of in shock. And I think they direct us to the chapel. That seems like the right thing. But we get back to grandma's, and everybody calling everybody and all that stuff. But let's fast forward a little bit. And through all this, of course, you can imagine I'm having all kinds of emotions. And the one that I am
not proud of was I gave up. I gave up with life. I gave up faith. I set my Bible down. Didn't want to go to church. I just existed, honestly. I just existed. And it had been a little bit after this had happened, and I was cleaning my room, and my mom taught us you always respect your Bible. Like, you don't set nothing on it, you keep it clean, you take care of your Bible. And I noticed it was dusty. And it bothered me that it was dusty. And I pick my Bible up, and I'm honestly going through it, and I'm pretty much mocking God. Not pretty much. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to hold up for myself. I was mocking God. And I was like, oh, you could do that for this person. You could do that for this person. For me, that somebody that was been the best Christian they possibly could. That I'd always put you first. That never asked anything of you. You couldn't do one thing for me. Like, wow. This is a joke. Like, this is a joke. I wasted so much of my time reading the Bible and studying it for him just to turn his back on me. Like, what kind of God is that? And I turned to John chapter 14. And like I said, I was just flipping through. So, you know, I had no direction. I was just being a butthole. And chapter 14, verse 18 caught my attention. Because it was red. So, Jesus himself said it. And to me, that made it so much more powerful to me once I read the verse. Because it said, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. I literally fell to my knees, and I felt the whole weight of the world lift off my shoulders. And I didn't no longer just exist. I knew I was there for a reason, that I had a purpose. And between this time period of my mom's death and reading this verse, like I said, I gave up. I had very little thoughts of killing myself, but I did. But I just wanted to sit down and just call it a day. Just sit down and be done over with it and just disappear. In this moment, I felt so full of life. And I felt for the first time that I was going to be okay. That I wasn't going to sit down somewhere. And I wasn't going to die. And I realized in that moment also that I'd been letting the devil get the glory and the victory of my mom's death. And that did not sit well with me at all. So, a Bible becomes an attachment to me again, and I go and I start sharing my testimony. And of course, it wasn't just like this video. It wasn't something that I rehearsed. It was something that I would pray about and, you know, share just straight from the heart, like it's raw. And during those times I realized that on that night God answered the prayer that I'd always prayed the hardest, was to make my mom happy, to give her a good life. And he did that. He took her out of this world and just, you know, completely turned her life around. He gave her a heavenly home where she wouldn't feel any pain, stress, or sorrow or anything. So he answered my prayers, and I became on fire again. I started, you know, speaking at school about it, my testimony, and at church. And, you know, I realized that I wasn't the only kid that was going through that. Like, I wasn't the only one hurting and being ashamed of what was going on at home and stuff. So I started reaching out to these kids and testifying to them and telling them that, you know what, you have a purpose. You have a meaning for life. And I'm not going to sit and say that moment when I read that verse and I started standing out and standing up and sharing my testimony and stuff that things got easier, because it didn't. It didn't. Depression kind of really hit me, and at moments that were honestly appropriate, but I didn't understand at the time. I remember at my graduation, because in 1998 I was in 10th grade, and found out in December 2000, that my dad had cancer, and his brain cancer, and it spread to his bones and all this. So it was we were just counting our days. And I remember questioning God and then being ashamed, because I felt like I wasn't being faithful, and wondering why this was happening to me again. I hadn't healed from losing my mom, and now I have to somehow figure out how to say goodbye to my dad. Through my dad's battle, he was so strong, and he encouraged me, and he uplifted me, and he told me to pray that he would live to see the first flower bloom. And I did, and God answered that prayer, and he made it, and he got to live to see the first flowers bloom. And then it wasn't but days after that he passed. Now, I was beyond devastated at this point. My dad passed away on May 7th. I was due to graduate high school May 11th. I wasn't going to go. Thankfully, I had people in my life that cared about me, that made sure I finished what I had to for school, and they just pretty much forced me to go to graduation and things. And thank you for that. But graduation was one of the hardest days for me, because you deal and cope with things in weird ways. And I'd made up this story that my mom wasn't dead, that she had just kind of disappeared for the time being, and once all ties were broke with Bud, that things were going to be okay, and she was going to come back. And sitting there in the chair at graduation, I knew that would be one of the things she would come back for. So I knew my mom was there. And I remember sitting there and looking at every face in that crowd. And I think that was the first time I'd honestly had to come to the reality of the fact that my mom was really gone. And of course that caused a lot of bumps and things like that. And this is usually where I would end with talking about how God had just taken this horrible situation and created this beautiful ministry. I had the opportunity of ministering with the Salvation Army for 5 years and sharing this story of triumph, because there was victory. I found a purpose in life, and I found peace, and I found happiness, and that was all tied with telling this story and being able to reach out and just tell people, to let people know that no matter what you're facing, no matter what hardships you're going through, that's not the life God has for you. He has a purpose for you.